Hello everyone, Emperor Tiger Star here. This week has had me busy with American Thanksgiving, and so for this week's video I thought I'd make a follow-up video on a few past videos. Back in late July, I was working on a video that was going to be about how Rand McNally brand roadmaps changed mapping forever and introduced the numbered highway system that eventually the US federal government itself would later adopt. But while working on the video, I realized there were some holes to this story. The first map to have started this was supposedly a 1917 Rand McNally roadmap of the Peoria, Illinois area, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So rather than scrapping the video, I made the video about the process of trying to find this map but not succeeding. Partly to vent frustrations, partly to see if maybe I could find a lead somehow. I didn't really have enough time to do another video last minute anyway. While the video performed okay, there were still a lot of comments with suggestions or even added helpful information, so I figured I'd share some of these as a follow-up. Firstly, more than one of you compared this to the CGP Grey's various lawn hunts for information videos, and yeah, it does feel weird to be on this side this time. Several comments also agreed with the possibility that this could have all been corporate fabrication or exaggeration and the map doesn't actually exist, since that's a surprisingly common thing big companies will do about their company's history. But by far the most suggested thing to do was to try to check with either the Library of Congress, the Peoria Historical Society, or the Peoria Public Library System. The Library of Congress's map archive did not have any Rand McNally maps on Peoria, Illinois before 1967 in their collection. Any general Rand McNally maps of Illinois altogether were from the late 1800s, well before 1917 as well. I emailed both the Peoria Historical Society and Public Library asking if their archives had any such map or if they had any knowledge of the map's whereabouts. While the Peoria Public Library never got back to me, the Peoria Historical Society did give a reply. They said their archives contained no such map and suggested I contact the Peoria Public Library before wishing me luck on my search. So that's a dead end. I did later find the Peoria Public Library had its archives available for online search, and those didn't have anything for this map either. Like I mentioned in the video, there are dozens of potential university or public library archives that might have a copy, but there's no way I can search them all or reasonably make road trips to a bunch of them even. That's just too expensive and time consuming for me to do. Another area of this subject that is important is that it's not like Rand McNally would possibly be the first entity to think of using numbered labels for roads. In the video I mentioned how Wisconsin would have a numbered state highway system implemented in 1918, so perhaps Rand McNally conspiratorially went with 1917 so they could claim to be first. But one comment pointed out that Wisconsin had started the process of implementing numbered highways in 1916, which would be before this supposed map if it did exist. The same comment also pointed out that part of the system was not just the numbered labels in the maps, but the specific type of numbering system and the coordination with the physical road signs they put along the highways. Therefore, that process as a whole was the uniqueness of the idea, not just the numbered highways, which, while definitely a slippery technicality for a company to use, is a good point. I'd also like to shout out Kaylee here, who on Twitter informed me that the state of Pennsylvania published maps with numbered highways as far back as 1915. While the previous comment mentioning the uniqueness being linked with the physical road sign coordination would still apply here, I do think this is still a great find and definitely demonstrates that Rand McNally was hardly the only one pioneering with this sort of idea. Perhaps, though, the most helpful comment I got was from AceMaster73. In the video I mentioned how when I emailed the Newbury Archive in Chicago, they told me they didn't have anything matching the map's description older than 1919. But apparently they were wrong because their online catalog did have some maps from 1917, and AceMaster was kind enough to even give me specific cataloging codes to find it. While I couldn't view it online, it was indeed at least there, which goes to show you that you should always double check online even if you can get an email from someone working there telling you otherwise. Really strange mistake there, but oh well. AceMaster then goes on to talk about how regardless, that map still might not be the first one, and that both Rand McNally and the state of Illinois had been toying with various highway labeling ideas for a while by 1917 anyway. But finally, he was able to find a website that archived eBay auctions that had a 1917 Rand McNally official auto trails map for District Number 1 for the Illinois area. This map does indeed have a trail marking and numbered highway system on it. While there are claims that the original map was just of Peoria, Illinois, there was still the possibility that it was of Illinois in general, and if that's the case, then this is by far the most likely candidate. And hey, Peoria is technically on here, even if it's not zoomed in. While I did consider looking at eBay listings to see if anything was there, I never really considered looking at archives of past eBay listings. So this is a really good find. With all this new information in mind, while Rand McNally may not have been the first to develop the highway numbering system that would later be adopted by the federal government, depending on how you look at it the very least there is a good candidate on what their first map is. Unless there's the other possibility that the real first map was just a rough draft and it got scrapped, but hey, what are you gonna do? The video I made was the last minute accounting of me reaching a dead end and talking about it, but thanks to you guys, we've arrived at a much more informed answer, even if not necessarily complete. It's better than nothing. For the next update, I recently made a video about the ambiguity of Tunisia during World War II after the fall of Vichy France in 1942. Some sources said it became Italian, some said it became German, some said otherwise. Many of the mainstream places like Wikipedia also had bad sourcing to justify the idea it became Italian administered. Ultimately, in the video I cited with that it was German-led occupation and Italy never had any official administration over Tunisia, because I couldn't find any sources that said otherwise. But of course, I was open to the idea that maybe there's something else out there that could have more details. Firstly, the Wikipedia articles I brought up in the video that had the bad sourcing were amended fairly quickly, so I'm glad that got fixed up. Wikipedia is never going to be perfect, but I do still think we should try to keep it as good as possible. I do want to bring up a few comments that pointed out that Tunisia was technically a French protectorate and not a full colony, as the Bey of Tunis was technically in charge. The Bey of Tunis technically declared neutrality and kept most of the administration the entire time. While yes, this is important to note, I was thinking of administration in the sense of like a military occupation government of some kind, similar to what the Axis powers had in other areas. For example, there was technically a local Greek administration during Axis occupation, but Italy and Germany still had official occupation zones and people in charge of those. I probably should have clarified more, but it's still an important point. One of the comments also brought up that the Vichy official was also still technically in power after 1942. The Vichy government technically existed until 1944 despite de facto losing power in 1942, so this perfectly makes sense. But I wouldn't say this person had that much power in any capacity anyway. Overall, though, this honestly just reinforces my conclusion that Italy still never had an administration, and that at best it was a German-led occupation. And at the end of the day, I'm still just glad those Wikipedia articles got fixed. Then, as a quick third and final update, the North America project. I've just recently finished the pre-classical period and hope to also finish the classical period by the end of the year. I do have a preview video showing the pre-classical period available for supporters of my Patreon, along with other occasional updates that I post there as well as Blue Sky. If you want to support this channel, Patreon is the best way to do so, and I appreciate every single one of you. In the meantime, I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.